The AI community practice is something that Flourish and Thrive Labs does for public health people. I'm Nebu. I work in a company called Flourish and Thrive Labs. We work with state and local health departments on a lot of projects, right now, a lot of AI projects. This is a conversation. Yeah, let's get right into it. All right, let's move right along. So today, what I want to talk about is context. So AI works best when you bring it into your workflow with the right context is sort of our big thesis, meaning we want to move the conversation around AI from like personal productivity to within the context of health department. How can you use it within your workflow? So if that's a communicable disease investigation, how can AI help you do that quicker, faster, less manually? Environmental health, chronic disease, cancer, whatever you're working on, how can it actually help your team do its work more efficiently? And so the framework that we teach is something called MAP, which is map your workflow. M, add the context, which we'll be talking about today, prompt and polish. So MAP. So last month we talked about mapping workflows. Today it's context. Next month will be prompting and polishing. So let's just jump right in. And so last month, Juliana shared that the context is the step that people skip the most when they're looking at how to use AI tools. And that's why many folks kind of walk away thinking AI is mediocre or has bad responses. If you type in just like a 5 word, give me the answer, got a generic answer and blame the tool, that's not right. It's more about how do we use the tool better. And really, out of the box, AI doesn't really know what you value because you are the user, it doesn't have your context, it doesn't know your community, it doesn't know how you work. And today we're going to talk about some ways to fix that. I'll do my best to show you examples from a variety of tools, depending on, so that you can see that the framework is cross-tool. But if there's something that you want to specifically bring up in your health department, we can do that as well. Now, the sort of baseline metaphor that we always use is like treat AI like a brilliant intern. It has a PhD in everything, but it's its first day and it's first day every day. Like most interns, they are very, very eager and they really want to please you. And so they'll give you all the answers you're looking for, at least all the answers that they think you're looking for, but it's never set foot in your county, right? It doesn't know your boards. Yolanda doesn't know your students. It doesn't know your forms. Let's say, it doesn't know that the current river floods every spring, or that your commissioner really loves septic reports but doesn't care about Ebola. I don't know. And the reason I bring this up is you'd never give that intern a task and then walk away, right? You'd sit them down, you'd brief them, you'd give them, here's a giant binder to read so that you know what our SOPs are. And like, that's how we recommend you treat AI, because your community, your documents, your voice, and your priorities matter. And you need an easy way to communicate that to this tool so that it gives you the answers you're actually looking for. So let's talk about some ways to do that. There are 3 sort of high-level type contexts that we think you can add. The first is documents. So I imagine many of y'all have done the thing where you upload a PDF to an AI tool or create an agent. And we'll go through both of those. The agents have knowledge bases that they constantly draw from in order to give you the answer. So that is a really good place to start. We always say give AI a PDF if you can. And that'll give you better responses. The second is a role. Tell it who you want it to be. So act as our communicable disease program coordinator at a health department of 80,000 people, or act as a Medicaid recipient with a 6th grade reading level reviewing this brochure, or act as a skeptical reporter who's looking for a story and find me what the 3 things I need to respond to in tomorrow morning's paper might be. That role setting changes everything, and people skip it entirely, but it is so worth it. And then lastly, what to not do. Right? What are the constraints? What is the limits of the box you want to operate in? So you could say 6th grade reading level, or under 200 words, or you could say cite the thing, or you could say don't reference case specifics in the public version because I don't know, about data constraints or something. So constraints are, I imagine many of you all have been in a place where you read something, you're like, ugh, this is definitely AI written and it's kind of annoying, right? And constraints are how you stop AI from doing the thing that makes you cringe. A very easy example is to have a style guide where you say, this is my voice write in this voice, and it gets you closer to what you're looking for. Something that if you met Juliana, who's one of my colleagues that usually does this, she keeps one PDF on her computer that has all of the Flourish and Thrive Labs reference materials. So it's like a brand voice, and it's not really a formal document. It's just like our positioning, key blog posts, our styles. And if she starts anything new, she uploads that PDF first and says, write it in this style so that it's the same thing over and over again and she gets better responses. So, three types of context: documents, role, and constraints. Now, on the other hand, that doesn't cover everything because, like most public health departments, some context only lives in your head. How do you get Michelle or Siobhan's head into an AI system? Like, or how do you get the commissioner really cares about the septic systems, or congenital syphilis is the priority? All of this kind of gets you closer to what good looks like, and it needs to get out. So if that is a thing, tell it. Like, you just say the thing, right? That commentary in your head when you're reading an AI written thing that you hate, tell it that. Say like, I hate this because my commissioner, our community reads at a sixth grade learning level, or you're not, this sounds like a thing that's to be read by a commissioner when it's really for the public. Like, say that out loud as feedback, and that too then goes into the context that you're going for. The other thing is that can help you is say it out loud and let AI sort of do the thing. And what I mean by that is use voice memos. So that could be, if you have an iPhone, it's built into your iPhone for free. You can record and it transcribes things. You can, I don't, there's an Android version that I don't know, but I'm sure it exists. Some people love Otter AI. I know, like Michelle, you have a AI note taker. Great. Teams is a good place to start. You can transcribe every conversation. Right now, we're at a point where like no one really cares if you record things. So you can transcribe conversations and put it into and say like, hey, draft me, uh, this is here's what we talked about. And then there's actually some tools that are built in. So here's an example of how something like that could work. All right, can you all see my screen? Right. Okay, so this is Claude. So it has a make feature. Hi, can you please write me a thank you email to the people that attended my AI community of practice? They are health department people that are really good friends. So I wanted to have a really friendly tone. Please stress that their public health work is very important and mission driven, and I like them very much. Also, have a specific shout out to my new friend Yolanda, who works for the Tennessee Border Regions. Now, if that's easier for you, great. This is now in the context of a request or a prompt. You can do functionally the same thing with with anything, saying like I hate this, or like, I really hate this. The audience for this is the wrong kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I've given up. But y'all understand what I'm talking about? Use voice memos to your advantage. These are tools that can really support you and your work style, because giving it context sometimes is very difficult. So honestly, depending on who you are, 2 minutes of talking can beat out 20 minutes of typing a briefing. Again, stop me if you have any questions on how to tailor this for your specific tooling, and we can talk about that. Long story short, the brain dump doesn't have to be typed. You can, if talking is faster, like do it in your car, and that can help. Some A thing as we talk about, like, one of our key areas that we want to stress is like, it's important if you're using these tools, you know how they work. So we always talk about like AI predicts the next word, right? That's what an LLM does. The other part of it is a chat rereads everything for the most part every time. It's a very simplified way of understanding it, but so let's say in the context you said draft an email, a letter about the boil order, and it gives you a draft, and then you're like, actually, this is our protocol. You upload a 60-page protocol. It says thanks, and then it gives you the next draft. And let's say, can you make it at a sixth grade reading level? It goes back and reads the whole thing every time it reads it, every time you ask it something. So that includes like your thanks. The reason that this is important is that the longer it gets, the more it juggles, and it reduces the value of the first protocol you gave it. Now, if you any of you've hit context limits, that's what this is referring to, right? It's the length of the chat. So there's sort of two consequences of that that you should just know about. The first is that, like I said, if you start a conversation with and upload, the it fades in usefulness as the conversation grows. So it's like it's essentially competing with everything you've given it after that for attention. The second is, and this is the more important one, is that the more context that the model is juggling, the easier it is for it to miss a detail or fill a gap or hallucinate with something that kind of sounds right. And so the longer the chats go, the easier it is to get hallucinate. So that's something for you to keep in mind. And then also check the responses, especially toward the end of long chats, a little extra, and then force it to say like cite your sources, or did you make this up? And it for the most part it gets it okay. Now there's again, this is for people that prefer to upload documents. There's two ways to do the context. So one is chat. So like, hey, use this document and use this document for the boil order protocol. You can also put in a knowledge base. So a knowledge base is something that is stored outside of chat. So that's RAG, which is RAG is another acronym you should know if you're interested in this world. It stands for retrieval augmented generation. It's the way that like you upload a giant document. It depends on the model. It chunks it into different chunks, and then based on your chat, you can it calls a certain part of that knowledge base in order to get you the better answers. The difference between this and uploading a document is that it kind of always is there. So if you use Chat GPT or OpenAI, I think it's called custom GPTs. If you use Claude, it's called agents. If you use Page 360, it's also called agents. The building and search, or if you use AWS, for example, they have their own way to do that. The reason to do this is for documents that you ask or tasks that you do over and over again that reference documents that you have to reference over and over again. Build a knowledge base and use it that way. So think about it, like I said, a chat is a conversation, knowledge base is like a library with a librarian. Yeah, enough about that. The other thing that's worth talking about here is my friend Juliana, who I've referred to. Something that you might want to consider is she loves her voice memo transcription tool. So she just thinks out loud. So in her car, between meetings, on walks or whatever, she just sends herself memos. And she's built a tool that records all voice memos from her phone, and it automatically dumps it into a folder. I'm pretty sure there's over 1,000 in there right now. And so then what she does is like, if she needs to think about a project that they started in March, she doesn't need to scroll through the recording. She just asks the system, like, because it's in a knowledge base, it can just search and get to it quickly. It also is its context, right? It's a version of having conversations with your own thoughts. Now, if that sounds a little creepy to you, again, don't do it. But if there are many people who this like would really transform their workflow, and we encourage it if that would help you. Again, these are tools. It's just better ways to use it for your life. And the benefits of that is like it's actually kind of scary how good this stuff gets over time, because your voice is the same. There are similar structures with voice memos. So it can get, like most tools can get pretty good at like that. Those voice memos become its own version of the context, if that makes sense.